was such a relief. I finally, after a really long time, felt like I was in my body again and I could breathe. And I was like, I didn't realize how much I was not in my body. I didn't realize how much I couldn't breathe into my own body. And I was just like, whoa, I don't know what it is. And then that night, I went home and I bled for the first time.
Hey, welcome back to RAA Talks. My name is Raihana, like rye bread, and I'll be your host. Just a reminder, RAA Talks is a platform to share inspirational stories about women and the realities that they face as they work to achieve their goals. Joining me today on the show is a woman who has a very interesting journey. Her name is Dr. Tiffany Wisenreed. And Dr. Tiffany's journey is in chiropractic care began at an early age, receiving her first adjustment when she was just 1 month old. This to chiropractic care. Wow, Tiffany, I am so excited for this conversation. I think it's more like it's going to feel like ask the expert in a way because you're so well versed in this type of care. And I know how helpful it will be for women as they're experiencing their pregnancy or just motherhood journey. But, for those who don't know about chiropractic care, could you share a little bit about what that is and why your parents chose that path for you at such a young age in your life?
Great questions. So the interesting part is my mom was pregnant at the time. I am child number 2 of 4. During her pregnancy, she was experiencing sciatica, which is like low back pain that's shooting down the leg, which probably many women who are pregnant.
100% relate. Totally know what you're talking about. Yes, please continue.
And, the traditional doctors kind of wrote her off and was like, oh, that's normal. Pain is never normal. It's normalized, but it is not. It is a signal and sign for our body to do something. One of her friends was going to a chiropractor and said, you have got to go to this person. They helped me through my, pregnancies. And so my mom went, got relief, and learned about the principles of chiropractic, which are more than just pain relief. Typically, it's talked about in that realm, but it is more so about helping to turn on your body's natural healing abilities and letting the body do what it's intended to do, which is heal itself.
How do you do that?
Lovely. With chiropractic, we work with the nervous system. So the type of chiropractic that I do is a little out of the normal. I know there's a lot of things on social media with, seeing the adjustments and the cracking. I don't crack, snap, or pop. I do a really
Save that
light.
for the Rice Krispies.
Exactly. No Rice Krispies. I always said crack is whack, and so we don't do that. And so the type of chiropractic that I do is wholly based on the nervous system, based off of really light, gentle touches in specific areas of the spine that help turn on different parts of your nervous system, typically the parasympathetic, which is more of our peace and ease part of our nervous system, that helps the body drop the tension down, unwind the deeper nerve tensions from like our brain and our spinal cord themselves to have deeper and lasting versus trying to move a bone, trying to move a muscle, right? Those things don't just pop out on their own. And so the nervous system controls and coordinates every part of our life and our being and how we express, how we envision and live our life through that. So it should be functioning at 100% so that we can then be functioning at 100%.
So amazing. And this is off the record because it's like totally unscripted. I wish I knew about this when I was pregnant because I am a victim of severe sciatic pain. And I was told exactly what you're telling me. Like, why didn't I meet her before this? Like, this would have been so amazing if I knew you years ago. I was in so much pain. And I tell people now, when the doctor tells you you have pain, it's not something you dismiss. And I was one of those who was dismissed. It's like, okay, that's normal. Everything. I have pain here. I have pain here. Oh, my feet are swollen. Well, that's normal. That's normal. That's normal. And it just made me feel like, am I complaining about things that I shouldn't be complaining? I literally felt like an idiot.
Yeah.
Because every time I would come and I would expect some type of solution or aid,
Guidance.
not medication, but something that I can do, like even physical therapy. I didn't even think that was an option because I was made to feel what you're feeling is normal. And it was implied you can't do anything about it. So you just deal with it. And I felt so alone in that journey. And what you just said, I felt like you were speaking to my previous pregnant self. And I wish, wow, I wish I had this resource. So I hope somebody who's pregnant or just going through postpartum is hearing this
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
utilize this wherever they're located in the world, like seek out this type of care. And that's so your mother went through it while she was pregnant, but then you mentioned you received this care on yourself 1 month old. So why was that even a consideration for such a young child when they would not even have a particular, well, I wouldn't think they would have any issues related to that. But tell me more about that journey and why your parents decided that for you.
Yeah. So I was so fortunate that my mom went to a fantastic chiropractor who obviously every practitioner is different. And what I would always say to anybody seeking out help is always, always, always interview your doctors. Interview anybody that you're going to include on your health team. That is so important because the doctors that are really there for you don't mind your questions. They love your questions. I love when people come with questions and they've tried so many things and they're like, but what about this? And that's an opportunity to gain more insight and to empower yourself. So always ask questions. So my mom had a really great chiropractor who told her, like, again, this is about the nervous system and helping your body to function well. And kids, what are they doing all day? They're falling, they're running, they're being kids, they're living life, they're growing, and they need it the most. Kids are so like bendable and flexy and they just bounce right back up once they fall because they just have so much vitality in them. And to keep that going, I was so fortunate that my mom brought us as kids. And so we would go as a family to the chiropractor. And it was so much fun. And we weren't sick often. We had like mommy and me days, daddy and me days, because we'd never really got sick. So we didn't use the sick time. We grew well. And it was always just like a part of growing up that, when I was really young, we went like once a month. As I started growing, like getting into my teenage years, went a little bit more often and, was really fortunate with the chiropractors that we had. We moved from New Jersey to South Carolina, found a new chiropractor that was like the only doctor we cared about finding.
Wow.
And so I was just really fortunate to grow up in a holistic mindset of where I was taught also to ask questions about those things, to not accept we can't help you as an answer because it's just not true.
Yeah, that's so interesting. You said the first person you look for was a chiropractor.
Yeah.
That's really surprising to me. Nowadays, the first person I look for when I moved a lot in the last 2 years, as a dentist.
That's also, yeah, that's also, that's
it's
number 2 on the list.
It's so fun. So you have to tell me why chiropractor. But really quick for dentists, I've been lied to. My husband's been lied to. And it's not just a dentist in one state or one city. It's multiple. And so we went to Houston, lies. Went to Washington, lies. And I'm like, why is it that they're trying to find, in California, that's before I got married. Somebody drilled 4 teeth of mine that did not have cavities. And they told me they had cavities. And because I didn't know how to ask the right questions, I didn't know how to identify it in the x-ray. Now I have 4 holes in my mouth and I paid so much money for it. And I probably didn't even have a cavity. Yep. And I feel like I was in healthcare before. And my goal was always to make sure the patient was informed. I was a health educator. And now what I've seen is, as healthcare has progressed, healthcare practitioners are lying and selling. Like it's like they almost include like a sales course when they're studying, that they're so good at selling you and creating fear in your mind so you buy into whatever service they're telling you and trying to get you to believe it that, oh my God, your health is going to deteriorate if you don't buy the service. Yeah. And it's just crazy. So now I find like if you can't ask the questions, you can't trust the dentist, for example, then you need to go get somebody else. And if you need a great referral and you're in the state of Washington, I got a great one for you. He's amazing. And he's been a military dentist before. He's seen trauma. He knows what he's doing. And I go to him. We left Washington, came back, and you know what? I still went to the same dentist. So really important, know who your healthcare practitioner is. But back to you, Tiffany. Why do you look for a chiropractor when you first move versus any other doctor on your healthcare team?
I think for exactly kind of the same reason you find the dentist, right? It's finding people that you trust, finding people who you know are on your team and looking out for the betterment of you, not their wallets, which is a really hard quality. You would not think that, right? Because I don't think anybody intentionally goes into the healthcare profession being like, I just want to get rich. That's all I'm here for. You can't make it through school like that. Like, school is too grueling. There's too many things. It's hard. It's a lot of information. You've got to love it and you've got to really love people. So for it to turn the way that it has in the past couple years, it's really heartbreaking. It really truly is, because I've been in practices with more of that mindset, and nothing kills your soul faster. And so why chiropractic? And for me, it has changed my life. It has saved my life on many different levels. One thing that I definitely wanted to kind of talk about as well in, the empowering yourself and feeling and always asking questions to your healthcare providers. One example of this through kind of my own life and my own health challenges, when I was going through chiropractic school, I was about 20, maybe 21, and my period stopped. Like, I didn't have my period for like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I could feel like the fluctuations of the hormones. So I'm like still like all the same things around the certain time, like energy levels, food cravings, all this other stuff. So I'm like, I know it's still happening, but I'm not bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to an OB. They did a ultrasound, found cysts on my ovaries without telling me anything, of course. And in typical
Mm-hmm.
fashion, you have to go online the portal and read what happened. And
Yeah.
so I'm reading my report. Luckily, I had the privilege of being in medical school at that time. So I knew the language, I knew the lingo, I knew what was happening, and I knew how to like look up things. So it was like I got diagnosed with PCOS, which just stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome, meaning that your body develops these cysts around the ovaries, making it a challenge for you to have your cycle, hard for you to lose weight. You have more testosterone in your system, more cortisol, more stress, so all these things. And so I went in for the follow up visit and I said, great. Okay. I understand that like my body's presenting with these cysts right now. So like, what are some things that I can do to help decrease the cysts? And they're like, there's nothing you can do. I said,
Same old story.
yeah, okay, that's great. And also, I don't believe that. So I read these studies about how losing weight can help do that. And they're like, well, you don't have enough weight to lose. And I said, okay, all right, I get that. All right. What other options do you have? Like, okay, so like, why are these cysts forming? And they're like, oh, well, because your hormones are all off. I said, okay, well, why are my hormones all off? They're like, oh, I don't know. It just is that way. And so, like, your only option is to go on birth control for the rest of your life, and you'll probably never have kids.
I feel like you're just talking the story of one of my clients. And
It's
that's
the
why my face
same.
is like changing and lighting up and going in different directions. Like you're literally speaking the story of one of my clients right now.
Yes.
Please continue.
This is the story of so many. And, again, I was equipped with the knowing, the inner knowing that that is not true and that is not right. That I know that, the body is not here just to cause me trouble, just to like give me shit, right? Like there's a reason for it. I might not know it yet, and that's okay, but there's a reason for it. And when I find that reason, I can then heal it, right? And so I was like, okay, I don't accept that. I don't want birth control. My experience with birth control was pretty horrid. It was like had adverse effects. And of course it was always, and I'm sure you know these people as well, or if it's happened to you as well, of like the 1%, like the lowest percent, that's the symptom you get, right?
Yes.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Like, maybe
Yep.
it's not even 1%. Maybe it's 99%. They just say 1%.
They just lie to it. They just lie about it. They skew the data, and that's a whole nother talk for another time. But yes, like, and then you experience it and they make you feel crazy for it. And again, through, growing up with chiropractic and understanding my body much better than my peers had, I knew that when things weren't right, and I knew to speak up, and I knew like, I'm not going to take that anymore. Like this is crazy. And again, I'm fortunate in a way that my body doesn't have such a heavy chemical load, so it can like drop that stuff pretty quickly. But it's intense. It's intense. And, my heart breaks for people who don't have that same, so like support system and like if somebody like that is listening, like, it's okay to ask those questions. Ask those questions, like challenge your provider because, like, I love it. I love it when somebody's like, well, I'm skeptical. And I go, great. I love that because you shouldn't ever just believe everything wholly is great or good. Like, don't jump in like that, right? Because you can't make sound decisions in that way. And you need to see the whole picture of everything. So, anyway, so I went on a quite a journey trying to figure out my own hormones, my own body, understanding, PCOS better. And I was struggling quite a lot between that. And at the same time, I was getting pretty debilitating migraines every single day. They would start at like 3, 4 o'clock in the evening. Mind you, I'm still in graduate school.
Once again, you still didn't get your period, right? You said no period for 3 months, and now the migraines are happening without getting a period still?
Oh, yeah. Yep. And they were happening
Wow.
like, yeah, they
Okay.
were happening before and now they're happening again. So it was just like my body's building up all of this stuff and I'm like searching. I'm like, okay, like acupuncture and this and different chiropractic techniques. And you get to a point, and I think everybody has gotten to this point along a, they call it health journey and or whatever path. Where you're seeking, 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 and you just feel hopeless. You're like, nothing's ever going to work. Like, this is never going to change. And in that moment is such a powerful one because that's exactly when the right thing comes in. And one of my student interns, so as a student, you get assigned a student who will then like also take care and adjust you. And so she was learning this technique called network chiropractic, network spinal. And I was just like, you can absolutely do that on me, but don't expect anything because like nothing really works or it works like the first time and then it just stops working. Like, don't get your hopes up with anything. Like, don't put all your like eggs in one basket. But like, yeah, absolutely. And I still remember so vividly, like her and another student adjusted me in the student clinic. It's busy, it's bustling, so many people. And I'm just on the table, face down, like just like visions of stuff, thoughts that popped in, thoughts popped out as they're just doing their thing. And then I remember sitting up, being like, wow, something feels like lighter, I guess. And I like looked down on the face paper on the chiropractic table and it's wet. And I'm like, why is it wet? And I touch my face and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm crying. And so I started crying. And I laugh because we're really great friends and really great colleagues now. But I'm like, wow, you try this new technique. And then the first person you try it on sits up and starts crying. I was like, that must have been a journey for you there. Um,
What triggered the tears for you?
it was such a relief. I finally, after a really long time, felt like I was in my body again and I could breathe. And I was like, I didn't realize how much I was not in my body. I didn't realize how much I couldn't breathe into my own body. And I was just like, whoa, I don't know what it is. And then that night, I went home and I bled for the first time.
How many months?
Probably about 5, 6 months.
Was it heavy? Because I know I've heard stories when you don't bleed for a significant amount of weeks, like 3 months or more. It's
Honestly,
pretty heavy in the length of time. It can be up to a month of bleeding. Did that happen to you at all?
nope. My body was like, back to our regularly scheduled schedule. Here we go. And again, it was while like healing is instantaneous, like the full spectrum of everything takes time and takes the consistency. And so, like, in that moment, it was more of like like, okay, here we are. Now let's stay the course. And so I knew that like, even when I was on the table receiving care, like in my head, it was just like, you're going to do this for the rest of your life. Like, if I could ever only just touch one person in the same way that I was then healed, like, beautiful. I've lived my soul purpose and like life is great. And obviously, there's more, and there's plenty of people who, have helped show the same thing, in that our body is always striving for our betterment and always striving for optimal health. And that looks different in different stages of life, of course. And we've been taught this narrative of back pain is normalized in your 30s.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, these things, like, we have to struggle with these things. We have to, like, grin and bear it. And it's just not true. It's just not true.
It's really powerful because it's practically what I teach as a coach. Whatever you believe or whatever thought you accept as truth becomes your belief.
100%.
And you can absolutely change that thought and then change your belief for life and continuously change it as you wish and as you please to make it work for you and your life. But I think the messages that are told to us, whether it's from growing up or just in society or in the beauty industry or the health system, all those different messages, even from the government, we take what they're saying as truth. And now there's so much fakeness out there that it's even hard to decipher what is truth. And we're so busy that we don't take the time to sift through it to figure out what is going to be, what are we going to accept as truth. That we start believing things that are not even aligned with our values. And that can even be a symptom of what's causing all this pain and distress in us, which is so
100%.
interesting based on what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything without that alignment with your values, symptoms pop up. Pain is a message to stop, right? And to stop and pay attention. And um, through kind of all of the different things that have popped up in my life, all the different health things, um, you know, uh, for a long time, like those migraines, it was in my head for a really long time. I mean, especially in today's world and going through doctorate school, right? Your intelligence is what matters, and that's your identity for a bit. And too heavy, that all sits up there. We think too much, we let those ruminating thoughts sit around. Well, guess what? They're going to build up somehow.
That's really interesting. You don't think about it because you're like, it's a thought, it's abstract. How can it build up in physical matter? Like it doesn't sound like it connects, right? If you're feeling lighter afterwards, that's amazing. I can imagine. I haven't experienced chiropractic care myself. This is the first time I'm learning about it, but I can just imagine what you're saying and how it's connecting. I want to take us back a little bit to dive in a little bit more because I think it was so important when you're talking about your PCOS journey, not having the period. You went through this chiropractic treatment, not expecting anything would happen, and suddenly you started bleeding after months. What happened after that? Did the migraines continue? Did you continue having PCOS? Could you talk a little bit more about that and let us know how the journey went for you after receiving that initial treatment?
Yeah. So it's been maybe 8 years since that initial treatment. I have, I, you know, I, it's consistency. Where I was like, okay, I have to first get well, and then I'm going to learn this stuff, and I'm going to do this stuff. And so, I was going 2 to 3 times a week because, like, yeah, symptoms were still there, and not as intense. I remember, I think it was after about a month of care, we did like a reevaluation, and she's like, okay, like, what have you been noticing? And like, I sat there and I was like, okay, this is really strange, but while I'm studying, I don't have to study as hard to retain the information.
Hmm.
Like, I had so much more clarity in my head that instead of spending hours poring over books, trying to retain everything, only retaining half of it, it was like I would read it, I would understand it, I would, say it or whatever, certain learning tools and stuff. And
Mhm.
like, that was it. I had it. And I was there. I was like,
Mm.
holy hell. Like, I haven't had that kind of clarity in my head for a really long time,
Mhm.
with just, years of headaches and migraines and all that other stuff. And so throughout the years, I've had different care from different practitioners
Mhm.
through Network Spinal. One of the things that is unique in the learning of it, we also get to receive it at those events. At the time when I was learning it, I was really fortunate. One of the lead doctors in North Carolina. He would come down to the school and he would teach like a weekend seminar. And so all day Saturday, all day Sunday, you'd think, "Oh, we're doing a weekend class, we're all going to be," but it was so much fun. And I got to learn so much from that. And then we would fly out to Colorado and learn all of that. So it was like a separate learning outside of chiropractic school.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
specifically what I do and what I have experienced with network spinal is beyond what I was able to receive with traditional chiropractic care.
Uh-huh.
And that was just my own experience. But, you know, today I think I have a better understanding of when a headache pops up,
Uh-huh.
of being intentional about what is happening.
Okay.
Where are my thoughts? Where's my mind right now? Understanding that, it's gone, or, I know to get adjusted, I get adjusted, I get care myself, which is a vital part of, me being able to give the care that I give,
Uh-huh.
as well as like some other practices. So some of the somatic work that I teach
Uh-huh.
is, again, it's self-healing. And that's the whole premise of chiropractic. It's you're healing yourself. Like you are your healer, you are your best doctor, always and
Uh-huh.
forever. And
Uh-huh.
learning to listen to those inner whispers make it so that it doesn't have to scream. So I don't have to be laid up in bed for a week because I pulled
Right.
my back out from doing,
Right.
XYZ. It's more of, all right, so I'm down for the count for a little bit. I do, some self reflection, some different self care, and I'm back in it.
I'm curious though. There's one question that's kind of like eating my brain. What all you're talking about sounds like it really helped you to reduce and better understand the migraines you were having, but you didn't really touch on the PCOS part. So I'm thinking, for my client here who's having really severe symptoms for PCOS, they haven't done chiropractic care. But if they go through this, is it going to be a cure or is it going to be the replacement of the birth control that they're on for life?
I would never label it as a cure. With the PCOS, ever since getting under care, I've never had an issue.
What do you mean? You
I
never had an issue? What kind
I've
of
never
issues?
had since like the beginning of my diagnosis and everything with it. I don't have the same traditional symptoms of it. I It's more of a mastery of oneself, I think, in any disease process, right? It's
Uh-huh.
dis-ease in the body when you break the
Uh-huh.
word down,
Uh-huh.
right? It's the understanding of, okay, for me personally, and that piece was more of feeling comfortable and confident in expressing my femininity and my feminine energy and being able to bring that in a space of high masculine, right? Like of go, 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 push. We have to get this done. We have to do this. Things have to fit in this certain way. And if it doesn't, you're out. And it's like, no, that's not the case. I'm here. This is like my own personal life and journey. And how I express and do that is up to me and nobody else. And so, in understanding my own cycle in my own way, my own hormones in my own way, I don't have, I mean, like, they're irregular. Like, I don't count the days. Like, they're not, it's not at 28 days. It's not perfect on paper. And that's okay with me. But I don't have very heavy cramps anymore. I don't bleed heavy
Mm.
anymore. I don't have abdominal pain because of the cysts. I have not had a cyst burst. Um, I have not gone back and had the scan done again because with or without the cysts, like my life continues. And I a part of me feels like, no, they're probably not going to find anything. And so I think in every woman's cycle is so individually different. And especially with PCOS, the traditional route that they take women on is textbook. And
Uh-huh.
everybody is not textbook. And
Yeah.
especially, women of color, women of different backgrounds, like how much
Uh-huh.
trauma has she had?
Uh-huh.
How was her mom in growing up? How was she in growing up? Does she still identify as like, a woman? And like all of these pieces are a part of that. And they
Uh-huh.
don't get taken into account when, somebody's struggling with that. Like even take anxiety, right? There's so many layers to it. Yeah, we can slap a diagnosis on and you can take them through the traditional route, but people get lost along the way. And what about those people?
I totally understand. Thank you for clarifying that. I think what I meant more like as a cure, like I think it's almost like any kind of chronic disease, right? So, like, for example, diabetes, cancer, when you know that you've been diagnosed with this, the first thing that you want to know is, I don't want to take something that's going to be a band aid. I want to take something or do something that's going to help me almost completely alleviate my symptoms or completely alleviate it. And I want to know I'm free from it. Right. So I think that's what I was kind of going with when I said cure,
Yeah.
because it sounds like for your situation, I'm just making an assumption. I'd like you to correct me here. It sounds like instead of taking the birth control, which is like a man-made medicine that you have to take for life, it sounds like you're doing regular chiropractic care to maintain your PCOS symptoms. Am I hearing that right? Or do you just do it once in a while to kind of keep your symptoms in check?
I don't do it for the symptoms.
Okay.
I do it for life. You know, that is how I stumbled into network chiropractic care. And it's so much more than just symptoms. It's so much more than pain. It is like there's so many different layers to it. And I think that's why I love what I do so much is that it's, yes, people come in with pain. Yes, the pain is alleviated and symptoms change. But more importantly, is this is not a band aid. More importantly, this is not you know, everybody gets something different from this. So I go in and I get care so that I can give the best care possible so that I can be functioning at 110%. So that when I'm working with somebody, I can give them 110% every single time. And I'm not tired. I'm not, burnt out from it because I'm doing what's aligned with my soul. And I do it to continue that and to continue in growing and aging in the way that I want to, in the way that I choose to. And I don't want to normalize or think that 70 has to look a certain way. I know so many chiropractors who adjust until they die. Most of them adjust well into their 90s and they only stop once once they pass or when they want to
What do you mean
retire.
by adjust? I heard you say that a few times. Like you just said, most of them adjust until they die. What does that mean?
So the chiropractic care itself is called an adjustment.
Okay.
In network spinal care, we sometimes call it an entrainment as well. And those are just the terms of turning on the light, turning on our brain and body's connection and helping to open up the neurological system so that our brain and body can talk at 100%.
Got it. Why would somebody or why should somebody choose chiropractic care if they're having pain? Like let's say you hurt your knee. You
Yep.
play sports, you hurt your knee. Okay, first thing you might think of, I need a physical therapist. Okay? So why should somebody consider before enrolling in physical therapy, why should they consider chiropractic care versus physical therapy?
It's totally a personal choice. You know, there's obviously the belief that if I have pain here, I have to treat here because that's where the pain's coming from.
Okay.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong or faulty at all. Physical therapy absolutely has its needs. I have plenty of patients that I recommend and go to physical therapy. I've gone myself. It absolutely does its part for people who are looking for a more whole and wellness and holistic standpoint of okay, yes, my knee hurts. Yeah, I'm like, what else is going on? Right? Like there are strings that connect that we don't always see because we're just living in our bodies and we are surviving most of the time, day to day. Most of the time, we're in pretty high sympathetic, which is our fight flight response, where we are perceiving danger in all kinds of different ways. And even some ways that we've just been programmed since we were young, of we didn't have all the means to grow up well. Maybe we grew up in poverty. Maybe we grew up with a, very distant mother or father that we had to feel like we had to earn love from, or, all these different things that turn on that part of the nervous system. And so I'm being really elementary in the like turn on, turn off of it. Our nervous system doesn't exactly work that way, but what happens are the signals go and we say, we got to get out of here. We got to fight, flight, freeze. And there's, other deviations of that, but just really basic fight, flight, freeze.
Mhm.
And then our body will choose one. And then each and every time there's some kind of response, our body goes through that loop and it turns it on. And then we release cortisol, we release all these stress hormones, increase inflammation, increase, or decrease our affinity to be able to heal from injuries, being able to self-regulate, being able to self-heal. And then ultimately, as we go through life, we'll encounter different symptoms, different things of that kind of cascade of stuff. And there's also, again, people can choose whatever they feel more affinity towards. I would just say make sure that they're taking care of you and they have your best interest at heart. You can't lose in that regard. And if certain injuries keep popping up, if certain symptoms keep popping up and you keep going like, why can't I heal from this? Why can't there ever be like a light at the end of this tunnel? Like, what is going on? Like, you really need to ask yourself, like, what is really going on? Because a lot of times when you're in that mode and when our systems are so attuned to such a high sympathetic level, we think it's normal, because just because 90 percent of the population is at such a heightened awareness state that it takes so much for us to feel anything.
I want to comment on that really quick.
Go
And
ahead.
this is from a personal experience, listeners. I recently started, I think in March, I started journaling again. And when my daughter was born, I love to write. You go to Home Goods. Home Goods has a beautiful selection. It's all mixed match. But I have so much. I spend hours there. They have so many different kinds of neat journals and cards. And I had a beautiful, like metallic peacock one. Ooh, it was so pretty. And so I would love to buy journals from there. And so I have tons. I have small ones, big ones, and I love to write. Once you hit motherhood, kiss writing goodbye. Like I never thought I would not have time to write with a pen and paper. And I'm so old school. I love doing that, even though I'm a millennial. And it's funny. So I had to really embrace technology when I got married and when I had my baby. I had to really embrace it. And it was hard. It was like throwing somebody into the water when they don't know how to swim. That's literally how much I was like, I don't want to do anything with technology. So I created a digital journal. Simple. Basic Google Doc, open it up, put a header, and I wrote. And I haven't been writing for like a few months. And I started again in March. And I stopped again because I got sick. And there's other stuff happened. I just got busy. But then I started again. And when I started again, I realized, oh my God, I haven't written in 2 weeks. And it hit me. Like it made me feel, and you were talking about this and I didn't touch on it. I'm touching on it now. It hit me that I wasn't giving myself importance and time to look at what my thoughts are. And when I do it, and I try to do it at least a couple times a week, but when I do it daily, I notice a significant difference in how I approach my day the next day and how I approach my day when my daughter wakes up, because I usually do it during her nap time. And it changes my mindset completely. And it's almost like what you were saying. I can imagine it's not to the same extent to the lightness and the lift that you felt from the care you received initially, but it's almost like I felt like a slight lift.
Absolutely.
Like I felt a little bit lighter. I felt a little clearer. And I felt more mindful and intentional about my decisions and my intentions after that. And today, I started snapping. I started getting more irritable. And even yesterday, I noticed that. And then I was thinking, you know what? I haven't been reflecting. And I've intentionally not been reflecting. So I'm like, okay, I have this much time for the nap. I'm going to get this work done. I'm going to respond to this person. I'm going to do this post. I'm going to, do this artwork to a company. I'm just thinking of all of the work things, right? And I was just thinking, I'm not living according to my values. And I was going to write about this too, that when you don't live according to your values, there's a huge problem. And I have this theory that even though I have this time, I'm going to be doing this from tomorrow, that I have X number of time, like let's say it's an hour and a half for the nap. I used to think that's the amount of time I have to do work. And now what I'm doing is repurposing it. That's not the amount of time I have to do work, but I'm going to repurpose that time based on my values list. So my top of my values list, I'm going to listen to something spiritual because my spiritual side needs some care and nurturing. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reflect, because then my heart and my heart and my mind, look at me pointing to the wrong thing. My heart and my mind is going to be in the right place to reflect. So kind of like what you're talking about, like having that alignment. And then the third thing I would do is probably look at my daughter some and look at her photos and write something. Oh yeah, write something about her, because I try to write about her, have like a journal for her, like what she's learning, her milestones and things. I've been doing that since she was born. It's great. And if moms, you need a tool like that, happy to send that template over to you. And then the fourth thing I will do is work. And that is going to be a hard shift, because I've been ingrained in my mind since I was a kid. Work is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I just wanted to get your take on that, based on, chiropractic care and what you believe and how that kind of interconnects. That what are your thoughts on that and repurposing in that way instead of just focusing on work? Because I think that's, if I'm connecting what you're saying, it sounds like that's just activating your sympathetic nervous system. But if I feel like if I'm reordering my time based on values, not what needs to be done, but what I feel needs to be done based on values, and I feel like I'm activating parasympathetic. But I'd love to hear your thoughts more about that, what I just shared, and what you think and your advice.
Yes. So we were not put on this earth to work. We were put on this like in this life to live, right? And live fully. And there's a whole spectrum of emotions, right? That go along with it. And like, that's what it means to live and to be alive. And like journaling is so like beautiful, beautiful tool. So basic little science of the nervous system. You have your sympathetic, which is your traditional fight flight. And then you have your parasympathetic, which is like your peace, your ease, your rest, digest part. Both of these are necessary for life. When we get stuck in stress patterns, it could be typically, it is the sympathetic. It is our fight, flight, our we got to get out, we got to go. And also, there have been a lot of people also stuck in parasympathetic, where they're paralyzed to do anything. They don't have any energy, fatigued all the time. They cannot turn on the sympathetic to get up and go and get stuff done. Both too much of anything, right, is a bad thing. Same thing with the nervous system. So, like finding like the sympathetic gets stimulated when we're working out. And like those are, healthy parts, but not staying in there for a long time, because that's what then creates a lot of chronic illnesses. And same thing with the parasympathetic of, you know, um,
You said
journaling.
working out stimulates sympathetic?
Correct.
Interesting. So people who are spending hours in the gym are really activating the stressors, not really helping heal. Doesn't that sound kind of counterintuitive?
There is, and and that is why a lot of people, a lot of athletes do like, oh gosh, there's a lot of different athletes that utilize chiropractic. One of my colleagues actually took care of college teams in that capacity to, again, help them heal from injuries. Because what's a big thing when it comes to athletes? Injuries, being able to heal from them. And so, again, that's kind of like you're stuck in that sympathetic because you're doing too much of it, too much of anything. You're in the gym all the time. You don't give yourself rest in between sets. You don't give yourself recovery time, right? Like, go in the sauna, go in the hot tub, like take a day off, like do something slow, something gentle that will turn on that parasympathetic so your body can go into rest and recovery mode. Like that's why it's called the rest and recovery mode part of our nervous system, because both sides are so vital to the system as a whole. We can't exist in only one space, and we can't exist in only one space, right? Um, that's too much stability, boom, we're out. Too much instability, boom, we're out, right? We have to have the blend of both. And that's what life's about. And so being able to take those moments, especially as a busy mom, as part of a family unit, there's so many things that are very unstable about that. And taking those moments for you to bring some stability in so that you can ground what you know, and you can elevate yourself enough. And it's the integration that happens with that. That is where I find the most magic, it's not one or the other is good or bad. It's how do we integrate all of them to the whole system? Like, work is great. And, there's like, I'm sure you find a lot of like purpose and a lot of like, I feel so good when I accomplish this or accomplish that. Right.
Sure.
And that holds meaning. And like you said, staying aligned with your values is so vitally important. I don't know. Have you gone down the like route of human design at all?
I have not, but my husband's into that.
Oh my gosh.
So
Okay.
please tell. What's your thought?
I love it. Human design, when, done right and all this other stuff, I would recommend going to like there's a lot of different people, but finding somebody that you're like, this person like gets me and like get your chart done. It's human design is literally exactly as it sounds. It is how you are designed as a human, how you are designed to function, not only just in your world, but like as a business owner. Like, how are you functioning? Because again, we have society that tells us how we're supposed to run a business. And then there is our own uniqueness to running things and being successful in our own way, right? Because our values might not be making $100 million. Our values might be, I want to take care of my family and I want them to have a wonderful, lovely life. And I want them to feel loved by me. I want to be there for them in those pivotal moments. And I want my business to be able to support me in that lovely life, right? So human design there's a lot of different moving pieces to it. I am absolutely not an expert in any way, shape, or form. What it did for me was it confirmed so many things that I knew about myself, but I didn't know how to put into words. And they've got like, okay, so for example, I am like a generator. And so, in that aspect, what that kind of means is I am not like when I'm on purpose and in my values, like I'm not tired. I could go for hours. I could just like keep talking about the same thing or doing that same thing. And so, in when I'm not in alignment with those values, all of a sudden I crash. I'm tired all
Uh,
the time. I'm like, I'm getting so much sleep, but I still feel tired when I wake up because I'm not in alignment. So like again, that's like one of the little body whispers. And so human design was just a way to voice the things that I knew about myself, but I didn't know how to put into words or tell other people of like, hey, I don't think I'm like this is actually in alignment with me. I don't know how I know that, but like I just know it to be true. And so it puts just a lot of words to a lot of the things that you probably already have an inkling about yourself.
I find this kind of expert. What do you have to look up if you're doing like a Google search?
So I was introduced to somebody on Instagram, Maggie Hillspitch, I think is her name. And that's kind of like a piece of what she does for a living. So you can go on her website and you can type in your information and then she'll give you your chart. When you get your chart, it is a wild thing to try and read on your own. I definitely don't recommend it because it's a lot of moving pieces. And I would say there's a lot of good books out there on it as well. If you go on Instagram and just kind of type human design and look at like Maggie's page, I think her last name is Hilsph. I could be wrong in that. It could just be the P, not the H. She's got a lot of just like free information on there as well of like you can kind of swipe through and she'll be like, if you're having burnout, here's how it's going to show up in generators, manifestors, reflectors, that kind of thing. And based on that, you're pulled more towards a certain type of work.
So it sounds like it's more of those strength finders or I forget what the other ones is, like those discs types assessments. Is it similar to that? Or is it more like a form you're filling out and they
Uh,
give you a report based on your answers to the form?
It's just based off of birthday, where you were born. It's kind of like a star chart, but
Interesting.
it's just yeah, like here's the facts. This is your blueprint. This is how, you were made to operate. Um, and it's a very interesting perspective, but I definitely, anybody who's like wanting just more information on how they operate, like just like start to dive into it, kind of read a little bit about it, or
Could you email me that? Like the Instagram handle you mentioned and the person's name, and if you have any book recommendations on that, so I can include it in the show notes if listeners
yeah,
are interested in that.
yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great. Awesome. So I want to pivot a little bit.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about success in this whole conversation.
Yeah.
I'm curious, we all experience failure to some extent. So I'm wondering, could you share a significant experience of failure or a major setback in your journey, whether, personal, career journey or your health journey, that ultimately, well, wait a minute, let me reframe that because your journey, you don't take it as piece by piece. You look at your holistic journey. So let me reframe that. So can you share a significant experience of failure or a major setback in your holistic journey that ultimately led to unexpected growth for you?
Oh gosh. You want it alphabetized? You want it like by order of events? Like, how do you want that list? It,
Whatever comes natural to you.
So pretty early on oh my gosh, there's been so many. And every time I've hit that spot, I feel like in a way, like I've got more from it than just like failure. I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned so much from this. Like, great, I never have to do it again. But that's not true. So
We want it to be that way.
way too. And it's that flexibility. And one of my favorite words with that is like the neuroplasticity, which is just the how quickly can you rebound from that. So one of my probably very first like really big I was in Boston. I was at a practice there doing network chiropractic, and very busy practice. Was my first chiropractic like job once I graduated school. And so I was probably about a year into practice, and I had so many different interesting things happen. Which one do I want to start with? So, towards the end of my time there, I started getting really intense, what I didn't know at the time, but what I do know now as anxiety attacks. So, I would be working on people and shortness of breath, tight chest, getting really dizzy. And I was like, "Oh, I'm just going to keep working through it. Yeah, so, all of that is totally fine. Why not? Just keep working through it." And I did that for about 2 weeks. And then I almost passed out. And I was like, okay, probably time to get this checked out. And so my family has a history of some heart things, congenital heart things, high blood pressure, that kind of thing. So I was like, okay, maybe I should be a little worried about this. Went into the emergency room to try and figure this out, hooked me up to all the devices. And, um, you know, they all say the same thing. There's nothing wrong with you. Everything is fine.
Web of lies.
And I'm like, really? Because it sure doesn't feel fine.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like you're
That's
like,
not
I
normal.
just want to put you in my body so you can just feel this, and then you tell me it's fine after you feel this, right? Like
That's going to be available soon, I'm sure, with the way technology is going.
let's go. Let's get it hooked up. I'm excited that they have the those period things that men can kind of experience, like period cramps. Have you
Really?
seen those? Oh my
No, I
gosh.
haven't.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You have to, so they have a period stimulator, and it's not like the same, but it does emulate cramps pretty well. And you've got to look up those, like there's YouTube videos of like women like being hooked up to it and then hooking their partner up to it. And like the guys are like, oh, and it's like, this is a 5. Like this is like the beginning early, like, for people who have really, really intense
That's so
cramps and
interesting.
everything. So
Wow.
hopefully one of these days they'll have the same where it's like, all right, let me just plug you in. You can feel this and then tell me everything's fine. So
That's going to change healthcare like
that
forever.
that would be great. Nobody can then turn you off, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, please continue. This is so interesting.
I love it. I love the side notes. And then so anyway, tell you nothing's wrong. Obviously, I'm like, I don't think that's true. So at the time I was working with one of my coaches who's been a network chiropractor for 30 plus years. I learned a lot of the somatic tools from him, Dr. Rich Gorsuch. He's in New Hampshire and lovely, wonderful man. I remember we were supposed to have a coaching call and I was in the hospital that day. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you, but I'm here. It's like, what? So tell me what's going on. And so I'm like, yeah, so this is all the things that I'm experiencing, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, okay, back up. Like, what's actually going on? He's like, do you like, like take a second. Like, do you think that there's something structural going on, or do you think something else is going on? And I was like, well, my ego wants to say something structural because I really don't like this feeling and I really want an answer to this. And so that part of me is like really wanting a diagnosis to make everything kind of tie up really nicely in a nice little bow. He's like, okay, that's fine for now. He's like, you can absolutely like totally believe that. He's like, and come with me for a second into my crazy world. What else could it be? I was like, I'm hating my job right now. He's like, okay, okay. He's like, so anyway, he just has this really beautiful way of bringing out some truths and some answers in that way.
I love it.
And
Is he a life coach?
like, yes and no, right? Like, yes, by kind of definition, right? It's all intertwined, and he has this beautiful way of seeing those connections and helping you to see them too. And Um, so slowly kind of coming to the uncomfortable realization that this wonderful, lovely job that I had that was a very safe blanket for me was not where I was actually supposed to be and what I was supposed to be doing. And so like there was a lot of things that, being brave enough to say it out loud to my then boss and be like, hey, I don't think I'm supposed to be here anymore. And I don't know really where that's supposed to be, but I just wanted to let you know, like I have to figure this piece out. And, I'm here until you can replace me and that kind of piece. And then the stars aligned. And then I was able to jump into another job. And then, again, like this cycle kind of starts to repeat when it's like this also is a soft cushion for me to not actually be aligned with what I'm supposed to be doing. So in a way of like between the panic attacks or the anxiety attacks, right? Like kind of a oof. And, I loved my time there. I loved my time at the practice. It was really hard to let go. It was really hard to say goodbye to all those people that I grew to love and care about. And, when you have a great team of, there was not only other network chiropractors there who've been in practice longer than I was that I could like look up to and lean into during those hard times, but also just like a whole wellness center that they had created, and it was really hard to be okay with saying goodbye. Like I could have forced myself and stayed, and it would have just kept being like more things, more symptoms, and I'm glad that I was able to kind of catch that early and
Mhm.
turn what could have been more of a like a detriment and a really big stop into my career as an opportunity to, all right, we're going to shift gears. We're going to, go somewhere else, wherever that is that it's calling me. And that's what made me move from east to west. And
Yeah.
now I'm here with these lovely people and getting to meet some amazing people that I never really thought possible. I think I've probably experienced more physical setbacks in the way of like car accidents and different things that have popped up throughout my life. And I feel very fortunate to have Rich is kind of like a coach to lean into because it's hard to see what's happening when you're living it. It's hard to know like what's really going on when you're in it because
Yeah.
it's so comforting to like have that diagnosis in a way. Like I think you've probably have experienced this with people who have had chronic pain and different chronic things where they keep going and they keep telling them nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong, nothing's wrong. It's like just such a hopeless cycle of, oh my gosh, this is gonna be like this forever, and not having anybody to support you in like stepping back and taking a look at all of the things that you're doing that are living, like, again, outside of your values, or doing things that are just not in alignment with yourself, that your body's like literally screaming at you, like, right?
Yeah. No, I hear you. And that makes so much sense. And as you're saying, my body's screaming at me. It's screaming at me. Listeners, if there's a book that you want to read, there's a great one out there called I See You by Erin Dial, and I'll put that in the show notes. I haven't completed the whole book. Let me be frank. I have not read a full book since I was probably in high school. And now I've been okay with the fact that I don't need to read 50 books in a year. I'm going to read a little bit. I'm going to take what I need. And if I don't have time, because my child comes first, I'm going to read again when I have some time for myself. And I'm going to choose how I'm going to use that time for myself, as we discussed earlier. So, but that reminds me, because I read, this was back like last year, I read a portion of her book. And she talks about this IVF procedure she had to go through, and the same symptoms you were talking about, like overworking yourself. She had a lot of pain, and she was just talking about how she would crash and didn't understand why the pain was there. And it sounds like she went through a similar journey as you did. I don't want to unveil all of that, but I think it's a really important piece of literature that she wrote that can help you start that process of seeing yourself and understanding your feelings and your thoughts better. I think again, I haven't read the whole thing, but from whatever I did read, it had a significant impact on how I lived and how I kind of looked at my life. And I've changed a few things too because of that. And again, with that piece you were talking about a coach, I love what you said, that it's hard to see yourself when you're in the thick of it. And that's so true. And that's why I have my own coach. Like, you have your own chiropractor. By the way, I'll be looking into that. I need to discuss that with my husband. But I think it's such an important thing that I have my own coach. And I do have my own coach, and I coach as well. And I talked about this in the career side, that you have a mentor. That's great. You have more than one mentor. You should have a therapist for things that can be like you have some mental health disorders, or you just need to heal from trauma. That's really important. But it's also important to have an ally and a coach. And I would even add coach, not just part of your career package team, but I would say having a coach as your healthcare team, as you were mentioning. So like, you have your therapist, you have your chiropractor, have your doctor, your dentist, if you need specialists, include that. And maybe even consider a sleep therapist and consider a coach, because you don't see what's going on. You think you know what's going on. You think you really understand it. But as you were mentioning when you were talking to Dr. Rich, that he could see me. And when he mirrored that to you, it's a powerful moment where you get insight as to what's going on, and you're able to connect things better. And he's not telling you the answers, he's asking you the questions. Then you might say, listeners, well, why am I going to pay somebody so much money just to ask me questions? I can figure that out on my own. Well, no, you can't, because they're putting you in the situation where they're calming that sympathetic system, and they're going to elevate the parasympathetic at the same time. So it's creating a different feel of your thoughts that are going on in your head. So you can't do it on your own. And I love how you mentioned that it was an important part of your journey and your healthcare team. And I highly support that, because it changes your life. And if you don't really know what that looks like, try out coaching. And like you're going to evaluate all your healthcare professionals, evaluate the coach. Make sure you find someone you can trust, someone who understands you, who really sees the truths that you need to see so you can have a better life. That was my little side piece. I know we're at time, but I just wanted to make sure that I give you time to close out here and share any last thoughts that you wanted to share in this beautiful conversation about health and overall holistic well-being.
Thank you. I just, again, I think we hit on the big ones of, you are your best doctor. You know your body because nobody else is living it, right? Like, you are the one in, the meat suit that then, organizes the energy around it. And we're connected to something more than ourselves. And there is a reason and a purpose for each of us on this planet, in this world. And it is a very painful experience when we don't know what that purpose is, and we don't feel like we can live that purpose. And a lot of times it's where our pain comes from. And if you're experiencing that, I hope that you can trust people to come into your life to guide you. And it doesn't always have to be for a lifetime. It can be for a moment. but like let that guidance in and be careful of who you let in, of course. Always ask questions, always push back. You're not being too needy, you're not being too whatever they want to put a label on it for. You are the only person who can speak up for you. You're the only person who can live your life and give the gifts that you're meant to give and go at 100% because nobody else can do it but you.
That was so wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to listen to this again and pull out those quotes that you mentioned. We got some gear coming. Get your Raw Talk swag. That's, oh, well, here you go. Here's a sneak peek. I'm putting the book together, guys, of all the top quotes from every guest speaker, including myself, because I give some insights too, and I think my nuggets are amazing. And we're going to put it in the book together, and that's going to be your little book of wisdom. You can flip it any time in the day. And there you go. You got a motivator to kind of get you through whatever situation you are. So that's coming soon. Stay tuned for that. Thank you so much, Tiffany. This was a really refreshing conversation. As I mentioned, I was a health educator before, and all the terms you were talking, I'm like, man, I wish I was in nursing school. Like that was my path, and it changed. And I just felt so connected to what you were saying, and it was invigorating. And so I want to thank you for the time, all the insights you shared, for talking through chiropractic care and letting us know what that means and why that should be part of your healthcare team if you decide to explore that. But listeners, unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time together. And I want to make sure that you subscribe to this podcast, give us a follow on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube to make sure you get access to this great content and Raw Talks. And we'll see you next time.